welcome to CEC Gurukul lecture. In the series on sociological research method, in today's lecture, we're going to talk about basic elements of scientific method, and here we are going to specifically discuss on concepts. Now, when we do research in social science or in any other physical sciences, we generally tend to abstract knowledge from the social reality, and therefore, every science has its own set of concepts and terms which are the building blocks for any kind of research. So, today we are going to understand what it means by concepts, conceptualization, reconceptualization, and the significance of concept as basic elements in scientific method. So, to begin, we know scientific knowledge is systematic and abstract, leading to the development of conceptual system within each science. Scientific facts are not causal observation, but verified statements that connect empirical data with a theoretical framework. So, what we observe is just a part of it. Now, whatever reality we observe, all the realities are not reproduced as it is. Then the researcher abstracts from that reality those significant part which would then lead to the theory formation. So, concepts basically link reality with theory, and therefore, observation in science are guided by existing knowledge structure, meaning scientists selectively focus on certain aspects of reality rather than studying phenomena in their entirety. So, in sociology as such, we are not studying the entire society. We would say study one part of it, one institution, like we are studying kinship, marriage, and therefore, we would be focusing on those reality which we are trying to study. Now, in that sense, every science therefore builds a conceptual system, and conceptual systems are basically those abstract terms which we are going to use in order to explain or develop a theory. So, a conceptual system implies that science deals with certain aspect of phenomena. So, in physics, we would be dealing with mass, speed, valence, intensity of attitude, and it is not studying the whole phenomena. So, separating any phenomena from all its connection is an act of abstraction. Because science investigates specific abstract segment of reality and uses an abstract system to interpret them, each science develops its own terms or concepts. So, we have these mass, weight in physics. Similarly, in social science, we have concepts like community, group, society, institutions. So, there is a whole gamut of concepts which has been developed through the process of abstraction. So, the theoretical system of science can be referred to as a conceptual system. Now, when we deal with concepts, we also try to understand the process of reification. So, what is reification? Concepts are used as symbol to stand for the phenomena or aspects of phenomena being investigated. Proposition relate this concept, which in turn represents the underlying phenomena being related. A common error arises from dealing directly with concepts, that is, confusing the concept or symbol with the phenomena it is supposed to symbolize. So, there would be an error, and this error is called reification. Reification implies treating an abstraction as it were a material thing with independent existence and causal power. So, when we are trying to build a conceptual system in social science, or in fact in any science, we come across two crucial problems or challenges stemming from the abstraction of reality or abstraction of concepts from the larger phenomena. And here the problem that the researcher faces is which aspect should be studied. So, in sociology, the entire society is there. So, what is the element of society that a researcher needs to understand or study, and this implies that the researcher has to select and focus on one particular aspect, and this therefore there is this problem of selectivity and focus. This properly belongs to a discussion of theories and hypotheses, as the existing theoretical framework guides which aspect of reality are deemed significant for study. So, when we are trying to decide which aspect of society we are going to study, there could be certain hypotheses that, say, for instance, if industrialization, globalization occurred, so hypothesis is in terms of understanding what would be the impact of this change on, say, a family, on education. So, there is a theoretical framework which guides which aspect of reality are more significant than other, and this theoretical framework then helps this researcher to selectively focus on one aspect of the reality. The second question is how to develop concepts for them. This is the problem of conceptualization, creating precise, usable, abstract terms to represent the chosen aspect of reality. The process of conceptualization involves several essential elements. The first, the concept as abstraction. So, we further explore the nature of concepts as tool that stand for selected aspect of reality. So, if we were to understand transformation or social change within family, then we will try to understand the concept that would help us in understanding the institution of family. For, say, important concept would be joint family. So, certain concepts are abstracted from the social reality. The second process of conceptualization is concepts and communication. How concepts functions to ensure cleared and shared understanding among scientists. The third, problem of definition, and that implies that we have a difficult inherent in creating precise, unambiguous definition of these abstract concepts, because terms and concepts could have multiple meaning. So, it is very important to kind of arrive at a definite definition that explains that abstraction or that part of reality which we are studying. The fourth process of conceptualization is reconceptualization. This process involves reviewing, refining, or replacing existing concepts to better fit new data or theoretical need, and that is the significance of a research. So, we doing a research on some already existing research on that area, and then through the process of research it is found out through review and more refined study that there is a requirement to kind of change the concept or kind of bring in new concepts. So, we kind of have to replace the existing one or kind of introduce new concepts to have a better understanding of the social reality. And the fifth element or part of the process is the operational definition. The method of defining a concept by specifying the observable, measurable procedure used to study it. Together, these elements form the foundation for building coherent, communicable, and testable scientific knowledge. So, this we have understood the process of conceptualization. Now, when we talk about the error in terms of confusing the concept with the entire phenomena or the abstraction with the social reality, it kind of leads to a process of reification, and we have to understand this as kind of the fallacy of reification. Reification is the error of treating abstract concepts, logical construct created from the sense impression, percepts or experience as if they were actual phenomena or real independent entities existing outside of the stated frame of reference. This error occurs when people forget that concepts are merely logical construct and not the phenomena themselves. So, constructs are kind of a build from the phenomena to be able to understand that phenomena more clearly. Now, it is described as a common error in scientific and general thinking. The case of W.I. Thomas, four wishes, serves as a classical illustration of reification in sociology. Thomas identified four recurring orientation in human behavior: seeking new experiences, recognition, security, and response from other. Now, these four would kind of be the conceptual abstraction meant to simplify complex behavioral observation. However, critiques reified these conceptual categories, treating them as actual psychological or biological forces similar to instinct. As a result, they criticized Thomas for postulating unverified entities. So, when there is this problem of reification, what is important for a social researcher is to kind of have a good clarity in terms of the difference between concept and phenomenon. Now, when we are going to refer to the reading which is being used here in this lecture, it's Goody and Hatt, Scientific Methods, and these authors clarify that criticism were misplaced because they attacked the mistaken reification of the concept. Scientific concepts are analytical tools, not things that exist independently in nature. Recognizing this distinction prevents conceptual confusion and preserves the logical integrity of scientific theorizing. So, the key takeaway is the distinction between a concept and what is a concept? It is a logical abstract level, and we need to differentiate concepts from the phenomena. And what is a phenomena? The phenomena is the reality that it describes. So, concepts are just logical tools to help us understand the phenomena, and it is not the phenomena itself. So, we need to kind of keep the concept and phenomena separate. Both facts and concepts are abstraction and derive their meaning only within a specific frame of reference or theoretical system. The relationship between a concept and a theory is analogous to the relationship between a fact and a theory. The concept takes its meaning from the thought framework it is placed in. Whichever theoretical framework you have kind of used to build this concept is the relevance of that concept is within that theoretical build. So, like facts, a concept is an abstraction and not the phenomena itself. Concept serves as symbol representing those phenomena and their relationship. So, these concepts therefore have the meaning only in the context of the phenomena that we are studying, and therefore, a hierarchy of abstraction is created, that is from concepts to fact. Concepts symbolize the empirical relationship and phenomena, whereas a fact is stated as a relationship between concept. This is because each term or concepts stands for the phenomena being described. So, to understand a phenomena, there could be a multiple of concepts. So, in this sense, a fact is described as a logical construct of concepts. Conceptualization thus becomes the foundational process through which humans think, communicate, and analyze reality. So, right from the identification of the problem that is going to be studied to the whole idea of reading, writing, publishing, communicating and analyzing reality, the concepts are significant. So, conceptualization is basically a tool for the communication of thoughts. In science, conceptualization must be far more deliberate and precise. A concept is abstracted and generalized from many sense impressions or percepts. This is the process of conceptualization. Conceptualization allows human to isolate, manipulate, study and organize the property of objects in thought. Since thinking can only proceed by giving names to such isolated properties, conceptualization is essential to all thought and communication. So, when we have understood the process of conceptualization, next we need to understand how concepts are considered significant in science. So, we have understood that concepts are the foundation of all human thought, but science requires greater precision in communication. Therefore, the process of conceptualization must be much more consciously a part of science than it is in common sense. By remaining aware of the abstract character of concepts and the relationship to phenomena, the scientist can avoid the error of reification. So, what is very crucial for social research in the process of adding to the body of theory is precision and communication. So, you have to be very precise in communicating the definition of the concepts or terms that is being used to understand the social reality. And the concepts are basically tools for communications. They must be highly communicable and they can't just evoke a vague feeling. So, when you kind of read a research paper and there's a kind of concepts, it should be able to communicate the idea that the particular research is trying to spread or trying to articulate. They must be so precisely constructed that all the components are known and clarified. Deriving and clarifying these conceptual elements is the major process of definition, which is basic to the overall problem of conceptualization. Careful definition facilitates communication within the scientific community, those who share the same theoretical framework. So, in sociology, we have a very specific definition of class as used by Marx and a very definition by say other thinkers. So, you need to have a very precise definition which can be communicated to the community. So, vocabulary gaps when we are kind of abstracting concepts and communicating, this process kind of leads to certain vocabulary gaps, because the same precise definition often creates a barrier to lay understanding, leading to the common complaint that science uses big words or is simply stating cliches in complex polysyllabic terms. So, if we are kind of using such definitions which is kind of different from the everyday commonsensical, then it becomes kind of a jargon which is being used in social theory. Now, because science is specialized with different fields dealing with different abstract phenomena, a variety of scientific vocabularies has developed. The gap in understanding between sciences can be significant, especially between fields with vastly different frames of reference, example sociology and physical sciences. A sociologist often lacks the necessary concept or terms to understand chemistry or physics report. Technical terms like specific adsorption, antibody, molecules, angstrom units in a single paragraph illustrate that these concepts are not easily translated for the well-educated public. Now, converting that one paragraph for lay understanding would require volumes of definition. Scientific vocabulary makes the precision and abstraction of science possible. So, whenever we pick up a research report or a writing, we see that there is a kind of a whole set of definitions of the concepts and terms used, because this clarification is very important to understand the findings of the research. Now, until we have this clear definition of the abstract, it could lead to a lack of clarity in communication, because if you are not clear of the concepts, then you will not actually understand what the research is trying to say. So, the core problem is that a conceptual system is like a new language developed from a shared experience. And here we kind of look into some of the problems in clarity and communication. And the first is the language barrier from shared experience. When a group of scientists share specific experience like observation, experiment, procedures, they naturally develop a specialized language that is not intelligible to other. And here the other implies the layperson or the scientist from the other field. So, say the physicists are working and they have developed their own sense of certain terms. Now, if they use those terms to a sociologist, the sociologist will not be able to make any sense of it. So, this is analogous to difficulties in translating between the natural language. The difficulty stems from the fact that different groups of people have either the whole example of unstraightable concept. Goody and Hade uses German words adopted into English or American sociology to illustrate this conceptual gap. Gemütlich is the word which refers to complex series of qualities in German culture, and the qualities are warm, pleasant, relaxed, feeling at homeness, while familiar to English speakers has no single precise English concept or label. And in sociology, we've used the term of Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft to explain the concept of community and society to students. Now, American sociologists retain the German terms because the English translation into community and society do not convey the particular specialized sociological meaning encapsulated in the original German concept. Gymnasium is a German concept that refers to combined high school junior college, but English only adopted its physical educational aspect, leading to a different referent. And the third problem in terms of the vocabulary gap is the inadequacy of verbal definitions. If translating simple everyday German experience is difficult, communicating complex scientific meanings to laymen far harder. So, there is this existence of the vocabulary gap, and this is because of the inadequacy of verbal definition. Dictionary definitions of scientific terms are often unsatisfactory because the terms like titration in chemistry or net reproductive rate in demography carry meaning derived from elaborate operational procedure. So, if you talk to the layman about net reproductive rate, it will make no sense. Scientific concepts are rooted in shared professional experiences. This makes them difficult to explain to those outside the discipline. As a result, dictionary definition of scientific terms often fail to convey the full meaning. For example, a chemist idea of titration, a histologist process of washing tissue, a demographer use of net reproductive rate. Now, due to this inadequacy of verbal definition, each of these terms carries layers of specialized knowledge and methodological practice. The most effective way to understand such term is not through verbal definition, but through active participation in the operation or practices they describe. In short, true comprehension of scientific language arises from engaging in the shared experience that give rise to its concept. So, that basically says that there has to be precision in terminology. So, scientific concepts often say words with everyday language, which can lead to confusion if their specialized meanings are not properly understood. To avoid this, scientists often create new terms that are deliberately restricted to a specific scientific framework. Several methods are used to ensure precision in terminology. First, constructing words from Greek or Latin roots, for example, photosynthesis or thermodynamics. Naming concepts after individual, this is the second method to arrive precision. For example, say from physical sciences, you have Newtonian mechanics. The third is using geographical references like Himalayan tectonics. These strategies help and avoid overlap with general language, making such terms easier to keep distinct. So, scientific terms is different from the common sense or laymanical understanding by using a set of strategy to achieve precision in terminology. However, many scientific words still overlap with common uses and thus require careful redefinition. So, when we look into this whole understanding of how conceptualization and concepts are important, we see that in sociology and anthropology, culture denotes the total social heritage of society, not refinement in arts or manners. Meanwhile, in bacteriology, culture refers to the growth of microorganisms under controlled conditions. These differences illustrate how one term can have multiple referent depending on context, creating potential traps for student and even experienced scientists. So, we need to be very careful when we are kind of doing research. The most important rule is to maintain precision and definition of the concepts that are very specific to that particular research. So, that helps us to understand what are concepts, the process of conceptualization, precision and communication of terms. So, these are some of the important ways in understanding concepts as important elements in scientific research. For reference, we have referred to the work by Goode W.E. and P.K. Hatt published in 1952. The name of the book is Method in Social Sciences and Concepts is discussed in chapter 5. So, it is advised to understand this lecture to read the book which is being given as reference. With this, I come to an end of this lecture. Thank you.